Cybernation Uncensored.
All right, let's test this. Can you hear me, beautiful people? In the chat, let me know.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Both of us, not just one.
Hey, if you want to spend this time
I know. I was like, you want to take over? No, just kidding. Yay, fantastic. Is the music too loud? Let me know. I will check the levels. But first and foremost, hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Power Word Talk. You can indeed, loud and clear. Fantastic. I love to hear it. And Power Word Talk is where we will have introspective discussions with phenomenal writers, artists, and creators to discuss their personal journeys and their amazing work that leaves a positive impact on the community. I am your host, Utahime, and before we chat with our magnificent guest for today, I just want to do some brief shout outs again. Shout out first and foremost to Dungeon Glitch for the awesome tunes that you hear throughout the show today. You can find his music on Spotify. Also, I am the community manager here at Cybernation Uncensored, and I would like to mention that our community has a very active Discord, a community as a whole, and some amazing community members I'd love for you all to meet. So please join us by joining our Discord and also to following us on all the various social medias, because we are on a lot. And we really appreciate all the love and support, and you can show that by following, subscribing, commenting, rating our podcasts and videos. Do all the things. Our team really works hard to try to bring you guys updated content daily, and we really appreciate any of that support, and we do see it. So thank you guys so much, especially with the recent boom and new members. So welcome. I also too want to shout out our official sponsors like Fantasy Grounds, who provide a lot of our virtual tabletop needs, and Sirenscape. I say that all wrong all the time. I apologize.
Me too. I cannot say it right, but it's like...
But they provide a lot of the music for a lot of our games. But we have a full list of amazing sponsors that I'm sure you saw on our intro screen there. So be sure to follow them. And lastly, I cannot not mention our Patreon subscribers. Literally, without your amazing support, we wouldn't be able to bring you guys all of the awesome stuff we're able to do on a weekly basis. So thank you so much for all that support. I'll be keeping an eye out in chat, and so will Michael, for any questions or anything that you kind of like mention in chat. We're going to try to keep an eye out. But we need to get into it, because today I have a wonderful friend of mine. Michael Galvis is with us today. It's an absolute honor, first and foremost, to have you on the show. We've played some D&D together.
We have.
But the most funny thing about this is that we literally run into each other all the time at all the nerdy local hotspots in town. We literally just will randomly run into each other constantly, which is, I love that. I feel like that's like a sign. Like we were meant to become good buddies and friends in this space. But for those who may not already know you, can you please let the viewers know, first of all, your name, your pronouns, and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Michael Galvis. My pronouns are he, him. And I am a creative content producer at Dungeons & Dragons for Wizards of the Coast. So a lot of what I do is managing the editorial side of things. So if you go to dndbeyond.com and you scroll down just a tiny bit, you're going to see all of these articles that are out that are talking about maybe upcoming books that are coming out, that are providing dungeon master tips, player tips, just everything that you could think of in relation to D&D. And I oversee all of that and help manage a team of freelance writers. And I also work with my marketing writer, Mike Bernier, who helps me out a lot with producing this really awesome content.
That's amazing. And also too, I had the honor of being featured in one of your articles featuring Hispanic creators in the community. Also too, happy Hispanic Heritage Month, where it has not ended. That and Filipino Heritage Month, we combined the two. They combined the two. But it's going to continue on. We're going to keep celebrating, right? Because it's not just like 1 or 2 weeks. It continues on throughout the year, right?
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, I really appreciated that. That was something that was like submit so much to kind of be recognized, and that's something that I really love, is that you really have been pushing the inclusion and diversity within the space and D&D as a whole, which is awesome. So thank you so much for kind of doing that. But before we get into more of that side of things, let's start from the beginning. So I really want to learn how you got started on this journey. You're an amazing writer, and you're an editor, and also too DM, let's not forget, for Wizards of the Coast. So kind of how did that all start?
Oh gosh, this is a long story.
I know it's a long, but we got time.
Are you ready for this?
We got time. Let's go, right, Chet?
We got lots of highs and lows coming. Okay.
No, I love it. Give it to me. Give it to me.
Okay, so I started playing. I didn't start playing Dungeons and Dragons until after college, right?
Wow,
so,
okay.
But I had heard about the game in high school, and I had this weird experience in high school where I was an athlete, but then I was also super into anime and stuff. So I remember in high school,
we have that in common.
Yes, I remember, and like my high school was so segmented.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was like the nerds sit over here, the athletes sit over here, and I remember every other day I would switch between these groups.
So it was like Mean Girls, where it's like you can't sit with us, you gotta sit over there.
Yeah, so I would sit with like the popular kids, and then I would sit with like the nerds. And I remember my nerdy friends were playing D&D, and I would like kind of like come into these conversations where they were talking about what they were doing and how fun it was, and I was like, I want to play with you guys. Can I play with you? And then it just, no. The answer was no. They wouldn't invite me. They didn't let me play. But since that moment, I was like, I am going to find people who play this game, and I am going to play with them. Meanwhile, all this is happening over the years. I go to college for creative writing. I'm doing my master's in creative writing.
That's
and
amazing.
I was working a lot of freelance gigs, a lot of part-time gigs, writing blogs, just hitting up on all sorts of like topical news. Like I remember my first interaction with talking about the news. It was like there was a car chase happening in like Houston, and it was all over the news. And I was sitting with my boss, who like oversaw the content team, and some of the other interns, because I was an intern. And we were like, how do we capitalize on this? And it was such a thrill to get like a topic, even as sort of inconsequential as like, a car chase that happened on that day, and being like, how do we get everyone who's watching this to come to us and to talk to us about whatever's happening and follow us for the news. So that was like really my first introduction into like news typewriting and like blogging, because a lot of what I was doing in my free time was strictly creative writing, like novel writing, short story writing. And that was something I was not getting paid for. It was not something that I could like find a job to do. So throughout my college and master's career, I was trying to figure out like, okay, I love writing. I love everything to do with writing, but how do I make money off of this? Like, how do I feed myself?
Make it a career.
Yeah. So that was like a big question that I was constantly grappling with. I had worked for like literary journals. I had worked for doing writing for charities, and writing for news and blogs, and all of it was like, this is all really great and fun, but like I don't know. I don't know yet. So then I graduate. I graduated into the Great Recession. Which
my
is,
goodness.
Yeah, a really great time to be a writer trying to make money.
Yeah. Oh.
And I luckily had picked up a temp job for G4 at the time.
Oh wow, okay.
During the E3 convention, and that was my first time doing like writing about entertainment and video games. And I was like, this is fantastic. I love this. This is like fast paced. It's nerdy stuff. Like all of the research that goes into it is just like finding out. You're just connecting with that particular community. It's like, I love this. And then that was like a temp job, and then just like ended. And then I was like, I'm broke again.
You're like,
But
what do I do?
yeah. But luckily that experience actually helped me get my first like full-time job, which was just in like internet marketing, a sort of like what we call them content farms, where you're literally just like pumping out as much stuff as you can to try these businesses, try and get traffic for these businesses so that they can make sales. Right. So a lot of my job was SEO writing, and SEO writing is a search engine optimization. So when you like Google, you know, car wash in my area, you know, like Google's gonna be like gonna spit some things out at you.
Yes.
And so my part of my job was trying to get people's blogs and related information, and they're like the front of their page, like top of the results for their area, right?
See, I wouldn't have even known that. This whole time I'm just like, man, this internet. It's like, you know, thinking of the time of Ash Jeeves.
Yeah,
like you forget that there's people behind all of that. You're like, oh man, this is so cool. It just knows what I need, and it's just right there. And that's because of you.
Yeah, that's my fault. But it's such a concentrated effort, doing like SEO type writing and working on the back end of websites to try and make it so that people can find you, especially in terms of like, I mean, it's something that I do even today, right? You know, if we want to be a great resource for all things D&D, you know, we're competing just as much as with all the other media folks out there, all of the journalists out there who are covering all of the things that we are releasing and that we're talking about, right? So luckily, I mean, that job was, let me think, was that the worst job I ever had? That was one of that was one of the worst jobs I ever had. Okay, because the context here is that like, so I was doing internet marketing, like putting together little content plans and editorial calendars for clients, and I had 30 clients.
Oh, that's a lot.
Like, and I was not making a lot of money. I was barely making my bills, and I was getting yelled at by clients, right? Because when your attention's split between 30 different businesses,
because it's like they want it now, but it's like, but I'm doing this and this and but they, you know, you just have to make it happen. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
No excuses are acceptable.
Yeah. So they'd email you like, oh, how's this going? And I'd be like, who are you? Have we met?
Sure. It's like trying to look for the name.
But so one of the tricky parts about creating content online though, is that because Google is the main traffic driver for websites and everyone's competing for that traffic, Google is constantly trying to, you know, they're trying to make their product better, right? So if you're like car wash in Los Angeles, Google's going to pull a lot of information about you and about the Los Angeles area to try and get you the most relevant information that you need, and that is a car wash that is near you, and then the pricing for that car wash, and then hours.
Yeah.
When we're talking about content, like if someone's looking up, let's say one of the adventures in a D&D book, like maybe they're looking up a particular monster, then, you know, Google's trying to consider like, why would you search for this D&D monster? Are you looking for the stats? Are you trying to get information? Maybe this is preview content, so you're trying to get information on the monster and then like the lore around the monster.
Yes.
You know, are you trying to get tips for how to run the monster? Are you trying to get tips for how to fight the monster? So because of all of this, because there's so many people who use Google, there's so many different websites competing for these searches, Google is constantly evolving. So in the time that I was in internet marketing, the big thing that was happening was, it was called guest blogs. And so if you were a small time website and you got an influencer, we didn't really have an influencer, but I don't think we called them influencers, but
like at the time, I feel like that's now a newer term. Like remembering the days of MySpace and Zanga page and all of so now it's evolved a lot.
Yeah, but if you were like a small time business, like maybe you made candles and you were able to get in touch with someone who leads, like, who runs this candle making blog that gets like tens of thousands of hits per month and has built this really great reputation online. If you back then, if you were able to get them to link back to you, right? Like if they had a blog, if they wrote a blog about you and then they were linking to you and linking to your products and stuff, that would help you as a small business to be more visible in Google. And then Google wised up to that, right? So so all of a sudden there's this, I think they called it the Penguin update or something. But what ended up happening as a result of that strategy working was that people started selling out links. So this candle blog that has tens of thousands of hits would be like, if you pay me $50, I will link to you in my next post, right? And then so that was a downward spiral because suddenly businesses could literally pay to just like push themselves up, and their website could be not good at all, which is bad for people who are searching for stuff. So then this update came out and it actually penalized you if you were getting tons of like, if you were effectively, if it looked like you were kind of using this strategy. So then it hurt both sides of the aisle, but mostly the businesses. So within like, when this update rolled out, it was like all of our clients just tanked in search results. Their traffic just tanked. All of the keywords that people were finding them with were suddenly, they were nowhere to be seen. And so on the business side, that was terrible because, you know, if you're working for a content farm, chances are you're not paying the writers well. You who work there are probably not getting paid well because you're just someone who churns out stuff. So everything tanked. This strategy that was super cheap for us stopped working. And as a result, like they ended up just pretty much getting rid of everyone who was on the content team. Like they just laid us off there like, yeah, sorry, we can't afford you now, and we have to like completely figure out what we're going to do with all these clients. I told you this was a long story.
No worry. Like, I mean, it's, you know what, that's the thing, is that it's not just like, oh, and then this happened and that's it. There's usually a series of events, be it really fortunate ones or unfortunate, where you stumble onto the awesome opportunities.
This is relevant though.
It is relevant because
like
it also goes into what you do. Right.
A lot of this experience that I got ended up was part of the reason why I even got this job. So I got laid off. I was broke. I was still broke. Oh man, I was living paycheck to paycheck for years.
Trust me, I know that struggle.
Yeah.
Too well.
The stress. Okay, I remember one time because my husband was at the time going to school at AFI, because he's a production designer, so he works for film and TV building sets, and we never fight. We get along so well. But one of the fights we had was over, I remember the only times we would fight, it would be over money. And it'd be because I was stressed about money. Yeah,
the stress.
You know, and just being like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I can't even afford to eat out. I don't, you know. But after I got laid off, I ended up finding just this random job on Craigslist. And I thought it was like, they listed the pay and it was like almost double what I was making before. Granted, I wasn't making a lot. And I was like, I need to get this job. And I ended up getting it. And it was to be an editor for, this is so boring, a loan, what was it? Like a financial advice website. And our main users were seniors, like baby boomers.
Oh, wow.
So I got this job. It paid really well. And I was like, I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to make this work.
Yes.
It's literally rotting my brain, but
you do what you need to make it through those tough times, for sure. I definitely have done that as far as like certain jobs that I had to work to just like, okay, I'm paying the bills today. All right, we're gonna do what we need to do as far as, and I may not love this, boring line of work, but you do what you have to do.
Yeah. And so part of the way that I guess mentally survived doing that line of work was that I started producing like homebrew stuff for tabletop, because by that point, when I met my husband back in,
because that was how like
I forgot to make that connection.
That was kind of how things started. At least that's what you've told me before, as far as Ben, your wonderful husband, kind of really opening that door to D&D.
Yeah, so
I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, so we met, rewinding a little bit. Rewinding. So we met just as I was graduating from college, like right before I was going to start my master's program. And he was the first like really nerdy guy that I dated.
I love that for you.
And I remember our first date at Starbucks, so we met at a Valentine's Day like singles party. And I remember being so nervous to talk to him. We never talked to each other. We literally just like looked at each other at the party. Okay, one thing, if you're going to run a Valentine's Day singles party for gay men, it should not also be a fraternity party where straight men are going to.
Yeah, because it's like, so we're gonna talk about this, or elephant in the room.
Yeah, that's why I was scared to talk to him, because like, he's probably just part of the fraternity. Like, I don't want to risk like hitting on a straight guy and then like for it to be weird or something.
Yeah, an awkward situation.
Yeah, but the day after the party, this was the time of Facebook. He added me on Facebook. And I remember talking to my friends. I was like, there is no way a straight man went to this party, saw me, found me in a picture, and then added me on Facebook just for funsies.
He did the work. He
did the work.
And I'm like, bravo.
Yeah.
Like, look at that. I mean, also, too, it's funny because I'm sure there was a little bit of like, that fear of like, this could be considered stalkery, but I'm not trying to be a stalker. I'm just trying to get to know you better.
I remember going through his photos and just being like, just show me a rainbow. Just show me like a picture from Rage, this gay club.
I've been there I used to go for K-pop nights. Those are my favorite nights. I had the best time there. Okay, but that's a conversation for another time.
This is a sidebar of a sidebar.
Sidebar, yeah.
But I remember our first date. We went to Starbucks, but we were just chatting it up, and he was just like, I'm applying for this master's program at AFI. Do you want to see my portfolio? And I was like, I would love to. And I remember he opened his portfolio. It was just all like nerdy things, like paintings that he had done of like fairy type creatures, and of paintings for fan art of like Chronicles of Narnia, and then of course the sets that he was working on. And I was like, I was instantly hooked. I was like, my goodness, this is a man who's super nerdy and super cute, and he likes nerdy things. So then I forget how many dates it was. I probably waited till like the fourth date to like, and we had dinner at his place. Like, I just feel like if you're dating someone like and you're gonna go back to their place, like, not to, oh gosh, okay, no, wait.
You're like, hold on.
Wait. I just, like, if you're gonna,
for sure.
Never mind. Okay, so
I know what you're saying. It's just like
it's a personal thing.
Yeah,
like, this is my room. This is
This is like, hey, that's a big step. That means like, okay, we're this is moving in a certain direction. Like, at least, I don't know. I know what you're saying, and maybe it's just because it's like,
I'm not talking about like hooking up.
No, not at all. It's like, this is not power word talk After Dark. That's a whole nother thing.
That's the late night show.
That's the late night show. Come back at 11 p.m. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding, guys. I do not have a late night show.
I'm getting to the point, though. So I went back to his place, and we had dinner, and I remember, I forget if it was the night of or the morning after. Oh, this is what he says. He says, okay, so I spent the night. Okay, let's just get that out of the way, all right? Jesus, all right.
Like, I love how you're like acting like I just like I put the pressure on you.
Yeah.
You realize I did not do that.
I did
Guys
this to
in
myself.
chat, you see that I did not open a can of worms. Okay, to me this is a beautiful story. I'm just here. Just living my best life hearing this amazing story because I'm also too a sucker. I was born, literally, I was supposed to be born on Valentine's Day. I was born the next day, just past midnight. So technically, I like to just believe that I'm just like always the romanticist, the person who believes in romance and love stories, no matter how cheesy, because I was meant to be a Valentine's Day baby and I have a birthmark to prove it. So there we go.
Well, anyway,
D'Angelo's like, what does spent the night mean? He also complimented your facial hair, said that it looks fantastic.
Thank you. I've been too lazy to shave, so this is the result of laziness. Although I did trim a little bit today.
No, it looks great. It looks fantastic.
Thank you. So anyways, as a result of that date, I was at his place and I looked at his bookshelf and I saw he had a D&D, the Player's Handbook manual. This was 3.5 at the time.
Oh, wow.
And I remember seeing it and opening it and be just like, oh my God, do you play D&D? I've always wanted to play D&D. I just never had the chance. And he was actually, I think it was that day he was actually going to be going to a D&D game or something like that. But he says that he was like super smitten by me as a result of that. And
as
of course,
he should have been.
Yeah, and of course he was like, "Oh, you should totally, play with us sometime. We should make this happen. I'd love to show you this game." So I was like, "Yes, let's do this. I want to play D&D." And he was like, "Great, you can run a game for us." And I was like, I don't know what that means, but okay, sure. Like, wow,
so it's just like right away, just like going into being.
So he says this is not how it went down. This is precisely how I remember this going down. Yeah. So I ended up because I remember going to like Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
Leading up to the day that I was gonna run this game or play this game. So I was trying to figure out like, what's a dungeon master and what really is Dungeons and Dragons, right? Because I knew there were dice involved and like funny voices and that it's a very social sort of game. So I was doing all this reading at Barnes and Noble because I couldn't afford to get the books for myself. So I would literally just sit down amongst the books, open them, and was just like reading through them for I think I put in like 3 or 4 hours or so of reading.
That's how I used to read my comic books. So I would take the Spider-Man, like copies of Spider-Man, and just like read them there. Because I'm like, I don't have the extra to be buying all of these volumes of like, sometimes you make it work.
Yeah, you make it work. You got to do what you have to do. And I remember at some point it clicked for me. I was like, these terms that I'm reading and like the way this book layout appears, I was like, I don't understand. Like, I was confused, and so I'd been researching how to run this game and play this game, and then I was just like, and I think I sent a photo of the book that I was reading to Ben, my now husband, and he was like, "Oh, that's not the book that we use. I don't know what you're reading, but that's not it." And then I finally was like searching for it, trying to figure out, and I realized that I had been reading 4th edition books. And he played 3.5.
Interesting. Okay.
Which are very different systems, like completely different from each other.
I know D's like 4E. I'm like, I remember D'Angelo talking about how he liked 4E.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I was like, oh no. So then I had to like panic research 3.5. And so anyway, long story short, first session that I ever ran was just a complete disaster. I remember, oh man, I can't even remember. It was something like, I think the scenario was something like you're prisoners in a dungeon or something. And one of the players was like, why am I a prisoner? I was like, I don't know. I didn't think that far.
Like, because you are okay.
Yeah.
You are a prisoner in this prison with bars.
Yeah. But I came out of it loving it just the same. Like what drew me to the game itself was the mechanics of this sort of story-based game that where you literally can do anything, but the game itself is like, oh, you want to do this thing? Well, then here is how you actually do it in a way that makes it believable within this self-contained system.
Right.
So I fell in love with the game. And so going forward a few years, when I was first in the finance industry, I was like, I'm bored out of my mind of this job. All I'm doing all day is like writing and editing finance stuff. Yeah. So the way I survived was like, I would go home at night and I would write, or I would create like homebrew materials for my own games. So I was writing my whole campaigns, albeit they were not very good. I was still writing them. I was making homebrew lineages for my players and just for my own fun. And I was hiring artists to do artwork. Oh, I should have shared that with you. It just occurred to me.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
But I had like artwork done of the stuff that I was I was producing. It was literally just like passion project, like not trying to do anything with it at first. And then as time went on, I eventually started reaching out to like, because I played Pathfinder 2 for a while.
And I'm starting to play. I'm learning, trying to learn, because that's an upcoming campaign for me, and that's a whole other ball of wax.
Yeah, I actually got into Pathfinder because 3.5, the jump from 3.5 to first edition Pathfinder was easier for me, and it was easier to convince my friends to make that jump. So I reached out to like, I think it was D20 PFSRD. It's like the open source Pathfinder resource for like first edition, and Cobalt Press too, because I would look at Cobalt Press quite a bit to try and write for them. And I did a little bit of writing for them for each of those publications, and that was like my first real dip into like the tabletop scene.
Yeah.
And so I had that in my back pocket, right, as I was working through finance and stuff. Eventually, by luck of the draw, my manager for one of my internships in college, where I was writing blogs, so I talked about how I covered this news for like this car chase in Houston. So that manager knew that I was super nerdy, right? Like we followed each other on Twitter, we followed each other on Facebook, and we would talk about nerdy stuff all the time. Just by chance, like this was just a couple of years ago. How long have I? Like a year and a half? Longer than a year. Well, whatever. So about a year now. Yeah. Year and a half ago, this manager reaches out to me and she was like, "Hey, so you still like D&D, right? You know, you still like tabletop stuff." I was like, "Oh yeah, I definitely do. I love it." And she was like, "Well, we might have, or there's an opening right now here, and is this something that interests you?" And she sent me the job listing, and that's when I was like, "Hold up, wait, this is," because it didn't occur to me back then. Fandom owned D&D Beyond. For the longest time, D&D Beyond was
Yeah.
not owned by Wizards of the Coast.
And I did not. I actually like didn't find out until that whole transition happened, and then I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so and I knew that she worked at Fandom, so I was like, oh, it's probably maybe related to the wikis or something, you know, because Fandom owns a lot of those wikis where you're like, if you search for Star Wars lore,
Yeah.
you're gonna click through to like the Star Wars wiki. Fandom owns a lot of those. So I read the listing and I'm just like, on air, like time on air, right? Editorial about tabletop and D&D, and I'm just like, what is this? And then eventually it clicks for me. I was just like, wait a second, this is D&D Beyond, like. And at the time I was very entrenched in D&D Beyond. Like I was following Todd Kenrick. I was watching all the dev updates. I was reading all of James Hayek's pieces on D&D Beyond. And I was just like, so I knew at that time that they were making their departure. And I was like, hold up. I was like, wait, there's a job listing for Fandom, which owns D&D Beyond. And I just saw their tweets about that they're making their departure,
Like making all the ties, like trying to do the little string on the wall, like, wait, hold on, figuring this out.
I remember I was like, oh my God, this is, I would be kind of like stepping into their shoes and like into a position that's like an evolution of what they were doing. And so I was like, I need to get this. But I remember I met all of the criteria, except I didn't have as much tabletop experience, right? Like I didn't have, like I hadn't written for like comicbook.com on any like tabletop news. I just had like homebrew stuff, and it wasn't even for D&D, it was for Pathfinder.
I see, yep.
So what I ended up doing is I have a really creative friend. I was like, I need them to notice me. I was like, I have a referral, but this is a really important job to me, and I need to make my application as like really badass as possible. So what we ended up doing for my application was we made it into like a chapter out of an adventure module. Like I followed the same sort of like headline structure and appearance of what you would find in like a 3.5 book, like that same sort of like background and sort of delivery. And I dropped in all sorts of screenshots of like the artwork that I had done for these character origins that I had homebrewed. And I remember the hardest part. So first off, that turned out really awesome. That was really badass. That's really badass resume.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Very good. Very
because I
good
wanted
way
to
of
show
presenting the work too.
Right, because like my biggest fear was like I have all of this experience that they would like, but not in the industry, a completely different industry, right?
And we talked about this, how that's kind of like all of my experience is definitely not, or at least for like work experience versus, now I've been kind of ingrained in the space and doing more things with community management and all of that stuff. But it is when people first look at your resume and it's like most of it is in a different area, corporate America or wherever else. They're like, I don't see the connection here. And you're like, no, I promise.
Yeah.
I love it. Let's, give me a shot. Give me a chance.
Yeah. So I wanted to show them that like, I know my stuff, all things editorial, but also I know tabletop as well. And I have a passion for it. And so the idea is like, that I would be merging basically what I do at night with what I do for my day job. But my biggest fear with applying for this role was that because my job does require me to be on air, to do like video type stuff and to be thinking about that. And that was not something that I really ever touched or was like, that I ever really did. So I remember as part of my application, I was like, I am going to submit just a 2-minute video introducing myself. Like it's just because I was familiar with D&D Beyond's like sort of video format. I was like, I'm gonna do a sort of like talking heads version of my resume, and that 2-minute video took me 4 hours. And
it does, because you're just like, I don't like that take. Let me try it again, or you know, you're probably trying to edit it or make it look the best you can make it look, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So it took like, I forget if it was like 40 takes or maybe it was like 32 or 36.
Wow.
And I remember because what I was trying to do was first communicate like my expertise, why I was interested, and then also like that I'd be willing to learn to be on camera and that I could be comfortable on camera. And it is very hard being natural and comfortable on camera when you're applying for a job for your number one company in the world, for your number one
no big
job.
Deal. No big deal. Indeed, that's fine.
And I even had my husband like giving me pointers and stuff where he would watch and be like, you look like you're about to get hit by a truck. Like you look terrified.
Oh no.
Yeah, but I ended up, ended up catching their eye, and it was like something like, it was a good number of interviews on all sorts of topics. I remember I had one interview that was specific to video, like how would you approach video strategy? And I was like, and like you can only research so much about that. That was the one interview I walked out of. I was like, they're not going to hire me. But they ended up bringing me on, and part of what the selling point was for my particular resume was that I had the SEO experience, being able to like write with not only users in mind but also for like,
so it went back to all of that.
Yes, now I make that connection. I'm so sorry, I'm looking at the time now and I'm like, I've eaten up all of this stuff.
No, because you've already talked about a lot, and the thing is that that's what I love about the format of this show is just every conversation is going to be different because everybody's journey is different. Every like what you've gone through in your life to get to where you are now, all of that, at least I don't know, like I can't speak for everyone in the chat, but I'm pretty sure they can agree with me that I really love learning about the journey, because I think that no matter what, there's always gonna be someone, and probably a lot more people than you think, who are like, oh, that sounds like my story, or like what I'm experiencing right now. So I love it. Please continue. Because I also too want to talk about the fact that because of that and getting that job, that led to you even DMing for D&D.
Yeah.
And also to being a player in things like The Fiend of the Hollow Mind for the Radiant Citadel special and things like that. So please.
Yeah. I think also like part of, so because I came from that sort of background where it was like I literally just got found my way in tabletop, a big takeaway for me was that like you don't need to have written for tabletop in order to write for tabletop. So I remember, I don't remember precisely how we met. I think it was on Twitter. I had someone reach out to me and was like, I would love to write for D&D Beyond, but I don't have like D&D tabletop specific samples. And I was like, well, but I do write for this. And the writing that he did is very, it's like, it's so specific. It's such a niche topic about like, I don't even remember if it's like military type stuff or science type stuff. And I remember just send me those, let me take a look. And I remember reading them and being like, the writing quality was really, really good. And even though it had nothing to do with tabletop, I was like, this is a writer who knows how to research and to communicate really difficult topics in a way that even I would be able to sort of like make some sense of it. So I was like I was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's try you out. Let's write an article about. And it worked out. And he writes for us pretty regularly. He's a fantastic writer. So I think, but if he hadn't, sort of like taken that shot and been like, hey, I'm interested, here's some other samples, I would have never found him, right? Because if I'm looking for freelance writers, the easiest thing to do is try and find samples so that I see content that is most related to what they would already be writing. So shoot your shot, right?
Now, actually, this is a good question. This is a little side question. And I kind of think that I'm going to continue asking this question because it's always interesting. Everyone has a different answer, but it's all the good stuff. So as far as on that journey to get to the point where where you are now with WotC and D&D Beyond, like during all of that time, creative writing and everything, was there ever some life advice that you were given that really stood out to you, that really stuck with you over the years and motivated you?
I would say
what was that advice?
Yeah, so two things. The first is networking, right? So the more people that know you on a professional level, I'm talking like LinkedIn connections and going to networking events, really forming a connection with the people that are even in your immediate circle, like the people that you work with, building a reputation for being hardworking, for knowing your stuff, and then even communicating to them like, oh, I really wish I was doing X. It makes such a difference because when those opportunities come up, then you're potentially someone that they're going to think of. They'll be like, oh, I remember this person was always on time with their projects, and oh, they mentioned that they like this, so like building those sort of professional relationships and then building those friendships even. You always want to be authentic, right? Like, don't befriend someone just because you think they can get you somewhere. That's not right.
And that's really important, because I think that a lot of people forget that. Very, very good to note.
Yeah. So forming those connections is really important. And, I remember being between jobs and just, you want to have people to reach out to, about what you're looking for, when you're looking to make the jump from another company. And then the second thing is, it has completely slipped my mind. So it's a mystery.
No
if I remember it, I'll be like, oh, here it is.
We'll bring it up when that comes along.
Oh, shoot your shot. Yeah.
Shoot your shot. Yes, I love that.
Right? Because like, if you're like, I want to do this one thing, but I don't necessarily have all the experience, like, it doesn't hurt to still reach out and communicate like, this is my passion. This is my experience, and this is why I think I would be a good fit, take a chance on me, right? Because
and you always regret those chances that you don't take, for sure, I feel. And it can be scary. It can be really hard to kind of, just put yourself out there because of that fear of rejection, but it's kind of like you have to figure out a way to kind of push past that fear. Because you'll never know if you don't try it.
Yeah. I mean, I as an editor, like, I get nervous reaching out to people to write for us. I'm like, oh, I saw your work on, this publication. I thought it was really nice. Would you like to write a piece for us? Right. Because there is that fear of rejection, of them being like, no, your stuff, I don't like your stuff, or so I think no matter which side of the aisle you're on, people are going to appreciate you reaching out, and just, even if it's not a match, then at least you know that you tried.
I love that. And it's really important to remember that. And I think that's definitely, those are both very sound pieces of advice for the chat there. And don't forget, chat, if you have any questions as well, please put them in there for me, so that way I can try to make sure that I include that in our conversation here. But I also too, I know that we briefly talked about, I just mentioned the Fiend of Hollow Mind.
Yeah.
But like, also too, you are a huge Critical Role fan. Crit Role is like your thing. Yeah. Now, did that happen as far as just like during that journey when you were playing more with Ben and friends, and or did that happen when you did end up working more so for D&D?
No. So what happened was, my friends who we played Pathfinder with, we were looking for a new system, and my friends who had tried 5th edition D&D were like, oh, you should check out this system. I think you would really enjoy it. And so I was looking to kind of learn how to play it, and I stumbled across Critical Role, and that's how I both made the jump to D&D, but also became a Critical Role fan. I started watching their stuff. I actually started watching with episode 1 of campaign 2. Like, the timing was just perfect that they were starting a new campaign.
Yeah.
So when I started working at D&D Beyond, one of the things that I aspired to do was like, I want to DM a game on stream. I was like, it horrifies me to even at the time it was horrifying to think about.
Like, I don't even have the guts to just DM a campaign that's not streamed right now.
Yeah.
And everybody who knows me knows that I'm like, no. They're like, anytime soon? No. Not yet. Maybe one day. Dot, awkward silence.
Yeah, but like going into my role, I was like, my biggest challenge is going to be video stuff.
Yeah.
Is being on camera. So I told my boss, I was like, I don't know when, but I would like to play. I would like to DM at some point. I want to get my feet wet. So then the 4th anniversary of D&D Beyond was coming up, and we were doing this a week-long stream event. So my boss was like, "Are you ready? Like, do you want to DM a game?" And I was like, "Oh yes, I will DM a game." And what I ended up doing was I ended up writing a short adventure called A Familiar's Quandary that we published on D&D Beyond. And I ended up running that in order to raise funds for Stack Up and Jasper's
Awesome.
Game Day. And one of the players there was Tausa Jaffe. And I was like, I remember first seeing him, because when you do one of these streams, you usually are like in a sort of waiting room sort of thing.
Yeah.
I remember popping up and I was like, and then Abria joined as well.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, oh my god, this is incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was so intimidating, but not for any reason other than like I wanted to do a good job.
For sure.
And yeah, and then the next opportunity I had to play with a critical role person was for the Fiend of Hollow Mind. I think. I hope I'm not forgetting.
Yeah,
But-
you had 2.
Yeah. So
Well, that whole group was amazing. Eugenio, you had Anjali, you had Matt. Just like everybody involved. You guys were all amazing. It was so awesome, and Radiant Citadel was such good material as well.
Yes, I loved Journeys to the Radiant Citadel because if you don't know, so the Journeys to the Radiant Citadel, it's a D&D book. It's an adventure anthology written by people of color. So it offered adventures based around all manner of different cultures. So the Fiend of Hollow Mind is more based around like Mexican culture, and so
I love that.
in order to show off like how cool this book was, we did a pre-recorded adventure, and that was in studio. So that was with Matt Mercer and the other amazing folks that you mentioned, and but that was my first studio game, and
I'm sorry if I missed somebody else. Am I missing somebody? If I did miss
so it was produced by Joe Starr, who is my boss.
Yes.
And then we had Amy Dallin, Eugenio, Robbie Damon, I think was the one.
Robbie, oh my gosh, yeah.
So that was my first studio game. And that's more intimidating than playing over Zoom. Because I remember that morning going to the parking lot, and I wasn't paying attention. I just parked next to this car, and I got out, and I was walking, and I just stopped, and I looked, and I was like, this is Matt Mercer's car, because it had a very identifying thing on it. And I was like, oh my God, I just parked next to Matt Mercer. And I remember going in, and I was like in a cold sweat. I walked in, and people were sort of trickling in, and he was talking with Joe, and I was just like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. He's right there. I was like, that's how tall he is. Okay, so he's like, okay. So, like, because you see people in person and you're like,
yeah.
Oh, that's how tall you are. Like, I didn't know, because I was, we're remote.
Yeah.
Those of us in California. And so I didn't see Joe for months.
Yeah.
And so I met him, and he's so tall.
He is. That's what I keep hearing. I haven't met him yet in person, but I keep hearing that height difference.
Yeah. And his streaming setup is set up in a way that I'm like, he kind of looks short to me.
Yeah.
So I remember meeting him, I was just like, I swear I thought you were like 5'6", 5'5" or something, and I'm like talking to him like this because I'm 5'8". So anyway, when I see people that I see on stream,
yeah,
in person, I'm like, Oh, that's all I'll tell you. But he was really sweet, and the set was absolutely
It looks so
incredible. I remember sitting down. I sat down next to Robbie, who's also just super. Everybody was incredibly
everybody's
nice
so
and professional.
sweet. Yeah.
And I remember sitting next to Robbie, who is very tall, by the way,
Yeah.
as well. And I thought he was
saw him
short.
at San Diego Comic-Con. And
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's just like, and then I forgot Todd is also too. Todd and B Dave, like they're all so tall, and I'm just like little.
Oh, see, I haven't even met
like,
Todd in
hello.
person. Like,
well, I didn't get a chance to actually say because they were doing their stream, but like
Mhm.
seeing how tall he is with everybody, and you're just like, you guys are all tall.
yeah.
You don't know this because you only see this.
Yeah, just this little bit.
No big deal.
Yeah.
Welcome back from getting your pizza, Homer. There's a note. Is that a needler and a plasma rifle in the background?
It is. Yeah, my husband got them to help decorate. So
this
when
goes into the fandoms because I need to know before we end up like letting you go. I got to know about if there's other fandoms other than like, of course, D&D is a big part of your life, but if there's other special gaming or any other fandoms that really are like,
oh yes,
your inspo or you love them growing up.
Yeah. So my camera zoomed in a little bit and also pointed this way, but this back wall has all of our fandom stuff, which is funny. It has Naruto. I have tons of Naruto stuff. Pokemon stuff. The
like
big
your shirt,
fandom.
like your shirt.
Yes. I got this at I think at WonderCon.
Love that. It looks so good.
There's an artist who does these shirts, and like every time I go to a convention, I'm like, they have new designs and I get a new one. But the big one that we do is Elder Scrolls Online, and then League of Legends.
Ooh. Okay. So I need to know what do you play?
So League, let's see. So we play ARAM, which is it's basically just the mode where you're fighting 5v5 as opposed to, farming minions and running around the
That
map
whole
and
thing,
stuff.
yeah.
It's just a blood brawl. So in that, I love to play Irelia and Lysandra. I would say those are my two. And I love Irelia because she does lots of damage, and she's really good at just like jumping around the map a bit. She's great melee. And I love just her design. She dances with swords, so she's just like when she's attacking, she's just like doing this with her swords. It's just so cool. And then I love Lysandra because she just like locks down enemies so easily, which is great when you're dealing with melee characters like Irelia.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Any other ones that we're forgetting?
Let's see. Watching. I mean, we talked about Critical Role. My Hero Academia. Of course.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, do you have a favorite hero or villain? Because I know that some people are like, I'm actually a team villain, and I'm like, okay, that works too.
Oh gosh, I'm terrible with names. The guy who has the hands.
Oh my, Shigaraki?
I think so.
If I said the anime crew is gonna be coming after me. Hold on, now I'm like, guess what? Guess what we're gonna do? Just like we mentioned in our talk today, we're gonna make sure that I got it right by doing Google, because it's yes. Wait, we're talking about the villain Shigaraki, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I had it right. Tamura Shigaraki, yeah, let's go. I just was like, if I said that wrong, I got everyone blowing up my chat.
Yeah.
After this. But no, that's amazing. I think that now I'm all caught up, and so I've been watching this new season, and it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
Oh, Utahime's gonna turn in her trouble on a friend, right? Right? No, I love. Seriously, this has been so much fun. I could literally talk to you for like 2 more hours. Heck, we're probably gonna run into each other literally somewhere like Portos or something, like randomly anyway. But I really, really appreciate. I love this whole story about like how you kind of got into the space, and also too, I'm a sucker for a good romance story. So that always makes my day, always. But also too, before we let you go, because I know that you're busy doing a lot of different things, I want to know if there's anything you can talk about as far as things that you're working on currently. I know that we got a little thing called NDA sometimes, especially with a brand like Watsy. But if there's anything that you want to share, and then also to plugging your social media as well, and where they can find you too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, there's a lot of stuff in the works that I'm super excited about in terms of D&D that I can't talk about. But I will say, no, I can't say anything. Okay, so this,
boo boo.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to get in trouble.
No, that's
but
fine.
We're constantly working on new types of editorial content for D&D Beyond, which is a lot. We're always constantly talking about what best serves the D&D community and all of the people who come to our site to read our articles, right? Because we want to be a resource not only of news for D&D, right? Like if you're coming to us, you probably want to know what kinds of books are coming out or anything of that sort, but we also want to be that resource of you're building your character, we want to help you build that character and kind of weigh your options, because there are a lot of options out there, right? Because one of the greatest things about D&D that I love is there's such flexibility in character creation. There's so many different ways to build your character.
So true. Yeah.
But whenever I build a character, right now I'm building a half elf great old one warlock.
Ooh.
And I've never built a warlock. I've always done a multi-class. I've always done a multi-class warlock.
I've done it once, up to level 20, and it's wild, because it's when you first, it's at the beginning, it's not really you're I don't have as many slots as I would like.
That's what's always.
But once you get to that level, you're like, woo, baby, let's go.
Yeah. So I'm up there reading guides and stuff, and so I want to help make D&D a resource for that as well.
For sure.
So that's the type of content that we do produce quite a bit. So I would keep an eye out on D&D Beyond, because this is really awesome stuff that we're all doing. But also I am going to be part of a mini series that is being produced by cinematographer Joseph Adams. I think we're planning right now 5 episodes, and I got to meet some of the potential crew who were really fantastic people. And that's what the warlock is for, by the way.
Ooh, okay.
We're in character creation right now.
Oh, character creation process, yes.
Yes, so I'm trying to figure out my angle. Joseph is being very tight-lipped about a lot of the adventure details. So I'm
what do you have planned?
Yeah. So
especially you being a DM, you're
yeah. But I'm leaning toward maybe a sailor type background. I thought it'd be kind of cool if he was sort of all gross, barnacles and stuff on him.
A little Pirates of the Caribbean.
Exactly. Just constantly sopping wet that you can't tell if he's alive or dead. So we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see how that goes.
I'm super excited for that and what's to come. And again, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been an absolute pleasure. So much fun chatting with you. And thank you everyone in chat who stuck around and stayed for the discussion, because I definitely wanted you to get to know my amazing friend Michael a little bit better and all that he does. And there, of course, stay tuned. Make sure to follow. I put his information as far as social media, so that way you can follow and show love and support. But don't go anywhere, folks. We are going to raid the fantastic Sirenscape. I'm gonna mess that up again. Correct.
I will never get it right. I
just realized I always stop for a second. I'm like, oops. But yes, we're going to be raiding over there, that amazing team that Rob runs at 4 p.m. Pacific time, all the time on the Sirenscape channel. And also, too, please tune in tomorrow for this special edition of Power Word Talk, the Friday edition, which is going to be with another dear friend of mine, Cynthia Marie, at the same time, 3 p.m. Pacific time. And that's going to be right before our amazing GM Ravens awesome Cyberpunk High Riders game. It's the first episode for that. You already saw the session 0, so you definitely want to tune in for this next episode. And her game is at 5 p.m. Pacific time, and you don't want to miss it. So please be sure to tune in and stay here. Don't go anywhere. I'm gonna show some awesome photos that of my friend here, Michael, to kind of lead us out here. So stay around. Thank you, guys. Until next time. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, look at those cute photos of me.
I know, you look so good. And yes, they can hear us still.
Oh. well, I like those photos. I got those done for my 1 year.
I love it. Yeah, it was so good. So these are Cameron Rice, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Really good guy.
I love it. See, I'm like, I can't wait. I have to try to talk to you, Cameron, and be like, hey, I'm overdue to try to like schedule something with you. Michael seems so wholesome. That's because he is such a sweetheart, and so is Ben. And oh my gosh, we needed photos of your dog.
Oh my
doggo.
God. I see. Next time I will.
Next time.
Now that I've done this one. Okay, now I know what kind of pictures I would have sent.
Yeah. I know. Okay, and I'm so excited because I love that our dogs get along so well. That's been like a highlight, because sometimes it's either hit or miss. Like sometimes it's like she's like, no, me and you, no, I'm the alpha lady up in here. But I love that there's none of that with Q and Artemis. They're just no dog pics is a crime.
I just remember because you asked for photos and I was just like, I mostly work with words. Like it's like, should I send screenshots of like my favorite adventures I've written or something?
Oh, here we go. We got the raid going. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Till next time, guys.
Cybernation Uncensored.